All right, good morning, guys, or afternoon. I'm not really sure when this is going to post. But I'm going to start reading chapter 3, Tiger, Tiger. Now we go back to the first tale, when Mowgli left the jungle after his fight with the wolves at Council Rock. He went down to the village at the foot of the hill, but he did not stop there. It was too close to the jungle. He hurried on down the rough road for nearly 20 miles, until he came to a place where he had never been. He stood in a valley that opened onto a plain cut up by deep streams. At one end was a village, and at the other end, the thick jungle came down to touch the grounds where the cattle were grazing. When the boys in charge of the herds saw Mowgli, they shouted and ran away. The yellow dogs that hang about in every Indian village barked. Mowgli kept walking. He walked right up to the village gate. To one side, Mowgli saw the big thorn bush that would be placed in front of the gate at twilight. So men are afraid of the jungle people, Mowgli said to himself. He sat down by the gate, and when a man came by, Mowgli opened his mouth and pointed into it to show that he wanted food. The man stared and ran up to the village street, shouting for the priest. Then the priest, who was a big fat man dressed in white with a red and yellow mark on his forehead, came down to the gate with at least 100 people behind him. Everyone stared and talked and shouted at Mowgli. Mowgli did not know what they were saying, for he had never learned the language of man. They have no manners, Mowgli said to himself. Only the gray ape would behave like this. He frowned at the crowd. There is nothing to be afraid of, the priest announced. Look at the marks on his arms and legs. They are wolf bites. He is nothing but a wolf child, run away from the jungle. Mowgli's limbs were covered in little white scars where the cubs had nipped him harder than they meant to when they played together. But Mowgli would never have called them bites, for he knew what a real bite was. 2 or 3 of the women cried out, "Poor child, bitten by wolves. He is a handsome boy." "Messua, doesn't he look like your boy, the one that was taken by the tiger?" "Let me look," said a woman with heavy copper rings on her wrists and ankles. She peered at Mowgli beneath her palm. "He is thinner," she said, "but he has the look of my boy." The clever priest knew Messua had a rich husband who could afford to take in the boy. So he looked up at the sky for a moment and said solemnly, "What the jungle has taken, the jungle has restored. Sister, take the boy to your house." "By the buffalo that bought me," Mowgli said to himself, "all of this talk is like the looking over of the pack. But if I am truly a man I must become." He followed the beckoning woman to her hut. Messua gave Mowgli a long drink of milk and some bread. Then she looked into his eyes. She thought he might truly be her son. "Nathu, Nathu," she called him. "Do you remember when I gave you your first shoes?" She touched his feet. The bottoms were as hard as horn. And Mowgli did not show any sign of remembering. "No," Messua sighed. "These feet have never worn shoes. But you are like my Nathu, and you will be my son." Mowgli felt uneasy. He had never been under a roof before. But when he looked closer, he saw that he could tear the thatch away if he needed to escape. What good is a man if he doesn't understand men's talk? Mowgli thought. I must learn to speak like the people of the village. So as soon as Messua pronounced a word, Mowgli imitated it almost perfectly. Before dark, he had learned the names of many things in the hut. Bedtime was difficult. Mowgli did not want to sleep under anything that looked like a panther trap. When Mowgli's new parents shut the door, Mowgli went out the window. "Let him go," said Messua's husband. "He has never slept in a bed before, and if he is truly our son, he will not run away." Mowgli stretched out in some clean grass on the edge of the field, but before he had closed his eyes, a soft gray nose poked him under the chin. "Phew," said Gray Brother, the oldest of Mother's wolf cubs. "Little brother, you smell of wood smoke and cattle, like a man. This is the reward I get for following you 20 miles? Mowgli hugged the wolf. "Are all well in the jungle?" he asked. "Except for the wolves burned by the Red Flower and Shere Khan. He has gone to hunt far away until his coat grows back. But listen, he has promised that when he returns, he will lay your bones in the Waingunga River," Gray Brother said. I have made a promise to myself, Mowgli replied. Tonight I am tired from so many new things, but it is good to have news. Gray Brother, will you always bring me the news? Will you forget you are a wolf? Gray Brother asked anxiously. Never. I will always remember that I love you and the others that grew up in our cave, Mowgli answered. But I will also remember that I have been cast out of the pack. You may be cast out of another pack. Men are only men, little brother, Gray Wolf said. When I come next, I will wait in the bamboo at the edge of the grazing ground. For 3 months, Mowgli hardly left the village gate. He was busy learning the ways of men. He had to wear a cloth around his waist, which annoyed him terribly. He had to learn about money, which he did not understand at all. He also learned to plow the field, which he thought was useless. The other children in the village were not always nice to Mowgli. Luckily, the law of the jungle had taught him to keep his temper. That, and the knowledge that it was unsportsmanlike to kill naked cubs, he kept from hurting the village children when they made fun of him. Mowgli could have caused a lot of damage. In the jungle, he was weak compared to the beasts, but in the village, Mowgli was said to be as strong as a buffalo. Many of the village rules confused Mowgli. He did not understand the strange customs of men, so he made many mistakes. To keep Mowgli out of trouble, the priest recommended that he be sent to work as soon as possible. When the village headman assigned Mowgli to take the buffalo to graze the next day, no one was happier than Mowgli. The night he was appointed to be a herder, Mowgli went to the village circle. The men in the village met under a great fig tree to smoke and gossip. The head man, and the barber, and the old Buldeo, the village hunter, were gathered there along with many others. They sat around late into the night telling wonderful tales of gods and men and ghosts. Above them, the monkeys in the trees listened. Below them, under a platform, a sacred cobra lay curled up with a plate of milk. Old Buldeo told the best tales. When he spoke of the ways of the jungle beasts, the eyes of the children listening just outside the circle bulged out of their heads. Naturally, Mowgli knew more about the beasts than Buldeo. As Buldeo spoke, Mowgli had to cover his face so the villagers wouldn't see him laughing. Buldeo told everyone that the tiger who took Messua's son was really a ghost tiger, whose body was inhabited by the spirit of a long-dead moneylender. I know it is true because the tiger walked with a limp, just as Purun Das did. He got the limp in a riot when his accounting books were burned. The gray beards nodded together. True, they said. Mowgli's shoulders shook with laughter. Are all these tales such nonsense? He said, everyone knows that Shere Khan was born lame. And that's where I'm going to stop. So, we will talk about this on Tuesday and look forward to Miss Schluger's recording tomorrow. Bye, guys.